Hey dear viewer, today's Skyrim build is the Oblivion class restoration for the Agent class, which is one class I have never played, not in Oblivion and not in Morrowind. Much like the Acrobat from the last time, this character has no armor rating, but this time we also have no block skill, so brace yourself for the hardcore early game. If you prioritize illusion skill to get the quiet casting and master of the mind perks, the balance of power will swiftly turn in your favor though. Speaking of magic, I reckon I didn't set any rules for spell mods in my last Oblivion class video, and I think I will stick with Mysticism and Apocalypse, preferably picking one or the other, because combining the two can so easily overshadow anything a non-magic character can do. It could make my barbarian look boring, and I don't want that.
I don't want it.
Despite the aforementioned early game challenge, the character is going to give you the ultimate brains over brawn experience. Not only he uses the illusion spells, which are arguably some of the most imbalanced powers in Skyrim, but I also added pickpocketing to his main skills, as it was not a skill in Oblivion or Morrowind, but the act of pickpocketing was a function of the sneak skill, and sneak was a class skill for an agent. I feel like I said skill way too much. Anyway, with this little addition, you will be able to disarm your enemies before combat even starts, make them more susceptible to your exploding bolts, and demolish their attributes by planting poisons in their pockets. You will not make the poisons yourself, you need some patience and high speech skill to go on a shopping tour around Skyrim from time to time and buy as many as you can. It makes speech a rather crucial skill here, so I added Immersive Speechcraft to the load order, and it is in fact very funny to use with illusion spells, and more on that later. Other than Vokrii, Mysticism, a magic overhaul, will provide us with a powerful late-game spell which allows us to sometimes fight without sneaking, if we really feel like it. Even Star minimalistic standing stones and its shadow stone will increase our movement speed in sneaking, which means we will have no urge to toggle the sneak mode off. Immersive Speechcraft will allow us to employ the help of pretty much anyone in the world, at least when the skill itself is high enough. And Summer Mist enchantments of Skyrim will give our crossbow a rather exciting property of having increased damage after slaying an opponent. This encourages thinking about the order in which you take the enemies down, but frankly, if you want to keep your load order short and sweet, Summer Mist is probably the first one to go, since without crafting skills perked, you have to focus on vanilla enchantments, increasing your key skills and attributes anyway. I also used Master of Disguise to sneak into enemy territory dressed up like them. Potentially late in the game, this can allow you to get into a dungeon, take the item you came for, and sod off with no fight whatsoever, even in bright and crowded places. The build will be fully functional without the mod. It is just for fun and for nostalgia as well, as you could do it in Shivering Isles in Elder Scrolls 4, at least for some factions. Speaking of nostalgia, there is yet another mod that I am not using because the list is already long enough in my mind, but could enhance the old school experience. It's Classic Classes and Birth Signs. It reintroduces, classes and birth signs, while also leaving the option for the standard Skyrim character progression open. Lastly, the clothes on our agent come from beyond Skyrim Bruma. They are Colovian common clothes and Colovian fur hood. Installing a whole new landmass just for style points may be a little bit pointless, but then what isn't pointless?
Why are we still here? Just to suffer.
I am sure you all have missed the backstory segment, right? I'm a wannabe writer. Feed my ego. Okay, right. So, right, here goes the backstory. In your early childhood, you were taken from an orphanage in Cyrodiil by a mysterious stranger who never told you her name. She was a high-ranking officer in an imperial agency known as Penitus Oculatus, apparently the Emperor's Guard, actually also a secret service branch of the imperial government. You were trained and stationed in the imperial city for a few years with 8 other guys like you. Your officer or mother or just M had a habit of communicating with you through letters she used to sign simply as a friend. One evening you found one of those on your pillow, but this time it was glowing with enchantments. You knew what that meant. Penitus Oculatus considered your application, the letter said, and decided to give you a chance to finish your training early and join our most secretive branch if you complete the task described below. Our reports say the Dark Brotherhood re-emerged in the province of Skyrim. An individual known as Astrid is believed to be the head of the family. We also have reasons to believe that the internal enemies of the Emperor in the Elder Council are already aware of the Dark Brotherhood's return and are already looking for a point of contact in the organization. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, will be to locate the Brotherhood's headquarters and eliminate everyone inside. As we have no need to make the existence of the Dark Brotherhood a matter of public concern, if you fail, get caught or disclose your objectives to anyone outside of Penitus Oculatus, the agency will disavow you and deny any knowledge of your actions. This letter will self-destruct in 5 seconds. You threw the letter away and ducked just for safety. Not the nicest thing to happen, but of course you accepted the mission. Okay, the agent is an Imperial because they fit lore-wise, and the Imperial daily power can be somewhat useful before you collect all the illusion spell tomes, but a Wood Elf or a Khajiit would be also very good. The stone is the Shadow Stone, which increases our sneak attack damage and movement speed in sneak, and the attribute spread is 2 points of magicka per 3 of health per 1 of stamina. However, when you reach 150 points of stamina, you can drop the attribute entirely. We will be running all the time, but not sprinting that much. We will use dodge roll and silent roll, but not often enough to justify any more increases in stamina. The main skills are archery, sneak, illusion, pickpocket, lockpicking, and speech. In archery, take the perks shown on your screen right now. On the left, most sides take all the long-range perks up to and including the funniest perk in the universe, arrow to the knee. Take the power shot, quick shot, and ranger as well. They make a lot of a difference for a crossbow user, since crossbows already have a chance of staggering an enemy which is increased with power shot, but they suffer from mobility and reload time problems, which are offset with ranger and quickshot perks. With quickshot, it feels a little bit like running around with a gun, which is what you should enjoy as a medieval kind of enchanted sorceress 007. Yeah, that's a thing now, that's cool. On the right side of the tree, Eagle Eye will be quite useful, since most of your shots early game will be done at considerable distance. The more distance, the better, because crossbows are rather loud, as mentioned. Sneak perks will fix the problem for us, more on that in a second. Well, actually right now. Sneak perks are all the ones on the right that make remaining undetected easier. Much like with the Acrobat, the combination of Blind Spot, Fog of War and Escape Artist makes it easy to hide in the middle of a fight. Deadly Aim will increase our sneak attack damage, and you should get it fast as the early game will be very much sneak attack based. Silent and Dodge Roll perks increase mobility, which is vital when you don't wear armor. Dodge Roll became my main way of dealing with traps and enemy spells. Illusion as well, it's OP pretty much always with or without mods, and OP at a very moderate cost of perk points. You will need to get quiet casting and dual casting ASAP. Take at least 1 rank in Master of the Mind early as well. The second rank can wait until you are satisfied with your sneak and archery. Illusion spells, particularly the calming and enraging varieties, will be used frequently. The standard illusionist tactics of making everyone fight each other and then taking down the last man standing apply to this character. The character doesn't have enough magicka to always rely on illusion spells, hence we have speech. with Immersive Speechcraft mod, which over time will allow you to take pretty much anyone who isn't hostile as your temporary follower. I know there are mods that can do it basically at will, but it seems more balanced and deserved and suitable and immersive for the character to have to work for it. I used a nice little synergy with illusion quite often. When you are, say, in a bandit-infested location and see a tough one with some cool armor and weapon, you can use a calm spell on that bandit and then use Immersive Speechcraft dialogue to make them follow you. They won't fight for you automatically, but then you have the Fury spell or the Frenzy spell, and you can cast that later. Remember all those times when you wanted to use Frenzy but there was just one bandit in a room, so the spell would work against you, or the disproportion of power was such that the one marauder in the room would take down all the basic bandits in a matter of seconds and then charge at you? Well, fear no more. Now, with the amazing communication technology of talking, you will always have a bandit of your choice at hand. Granted, there are ways even within the Mysticism mod itself to command NPCs, but this is very Magicka friendly and trains your speech and is kind of doable early to mid-game if you have a little bit of luck. It depends how fast you level up the speech skill. All the barter related perks were also taken to make it easier for you to buy all the expensive explosive bolts at Fort Downguard, Grand and Greater filled soul gems for your equipment, and most notably to buy as many poisons as possible to use with the poisoned perk in Pickpocket. Not everything can be convinced to follow you with speech, however the Dwemer machines, for example, can't. But luckily we have lockpicking perks which will over time allow us to take a Dwemer construct with us, and it will fight for us, and even get a buff while doing so. And one of these perks has a very, topical name.
No, God!
Lastly, we have a few perks in the Pickpocket skill. Death's Emperor, for example, is a cool perk which we can use to reduce armor and increase weakness to magic of some tough human enemies. With a little bit of luck, you can plant the Cursed Septim, a poison of weakness to magic, and a poison of paralysis, or just take away their weapons and plant paralysis poison to make them completely useless. This perk, actually, this is a vanilla perk, and it still amuses me to no end. Your endgame gear includes enhanced Dwemer crossbow enchanted with Kill Streak, explosive bolts, ring of peerless archery, necklace of nullification, mage's circlet, which should be obtained late in the game, gloves of fortify magicka, hood of fortify archery, boots of resist frost, clothes of fortify magicka regeneration. The resist frost enchantment is to make sure your stamina doesn't suffer too much so you can stay mobile, but before you get all your sneak perks, a muffle enchantment can also be considered for the feat slot. Enhanced Dwemer crossbow requires a lot of grindy little quests to get, so I recommend to use a bow in the early game. Something with absorbed magicka perhaps, or Zephyr. As mentioned, crossbows are rather loud, so they can be an impediment to our combat style, relying on sneak, escape and rolling around. So if you struggle with remaining hidden, a bow will make it easier for you. Of course, later in the game, with the Fog of War and Escape Artist, it will be no problem any longer. Our main spells are Calm or Hypnotize, Frenzy, Haste, Muffle and Invisibility. Hypnotize is an apprentice level version of the Calm spell, which I find the most cost effective for the aforementioned combo with the Immersive Speechcraft dialogue options. The usefulness of Muffle and Invisibility will run out over time, but still before your sneak is maxed out, Muffle is always good to have, and Invisibility, well, if you have to face a large group of enemies in the open, in the broad daylight, even with your super sneak, you may occasionally fail, so we have a life-saving move for these situations. Haste is a stupidly OP mysticism spell, not the first one I tried, by the way, that I think should be an alteration spell, but since the modder placed it in illusion, why the hell not? It is rather expensive, so you will be able to cast it once. It is basically a slightly weaker version of Slow Time Shout, but it is a spell. It will be amazingly useful whenever you feel like you have to stand up and fight on your own. Well, okay, so that is it for today. Remember a few warnings I gave. Play it safe in the early game, focus on sneak archery first, focus on improving your illusion right after that. I'll always buy poisons when you have some money, train your speech, and so on and so forth. And as most illusion-based characters, the difficult early game will be rewarded with senselessly funny and enjoyable late game. The addition of pickpocketing and Dungeon Master perk makes every dungeon basically a playing field of ideas for how to dispose of the bad guys in the funniest and most creative way possible. Now, I think I am done here. I must go make another one. Have fun, like, subscribe, share, comment, be nice to your mom, clean up your room, and we will see each other again. Bye. Bye.